Dawn Butler.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable friend from Norwich South for his water quality bill and for his excellent speech. There's not many speeches where you look to the gallery and they burst into a spontaneous round of applause, Madam Deputy Speaker. And so this is very complex and it's not an easy solution. And the government, as we've just heard, the government is doing a lot of work around this issue and holding water companies to account. But I suppose the question is really, is there more that can be done, and how the honourable friend from Norwich South and the government can work together, and what can be taken from my honourable friend's bill? Because ultimately, my constituents in Brent East are struggling with the cost of living crisis. And what they don't want to be doing is paying for the failures of these water organisations that are taking billions for their shareholders whilst they struggle to turn the tap on. And the leaks that we have in Brent East, Madam Deputy Speaker, are frustrating, because after the leaks we then have potholes. So all of this is very interconnected. And in 2023, there was a 54% increase in sewage spills. That is a whopping 464,056 spills in 2023. And that is a huge number, and sometimes it's difficult to put that number into context. Madam Deputy Speaker, the average person passes wind 7,000 to 9,000 times a year. So I hope that puts into context just how much spillage goes into our waters and rivers, and I honestly feel I can see that is landing really well with people, and you can imagine how many times you pass wind. Well, just double that, double that, double that, double that, double that, and double that again, and that is how much spillage goes into our waterways, and the water companies really don't care. As I said, billions to shareholders, and some of those shareholders, Madam Deputy Speaker, are part of tax avoidance schemes, and I'm really pleased that this government is also tackling tax avoidance schemes, because that is vital and important. And the thing is, infrastructure's crumbling, you know, pollution is doubling, and my community in Brent East and other MPs' communities are paying the price. And I was one of the MPs, I think it was 30 of us, who signed a letter to say that Thames Water should be put in special measures, because at the end of the day, I don't really know any other company and organisation that can fail so many times and still be able to take money out of the system and give it to shareholders and still have a contract. It just doesn't make any sense. And my constituents can't afford the increase, the proposed increase of over 50%. And it really is a thing about profits are privatised. You know, we sometimes, especially politicians, talk about profits and say that it's a politics of envy. It's not a politics of envy when you can take profits, put it in the pockets of millionaires and billionaires, but the failures have to be paid for by ordinary people, by ordinary citizens. That's not right. And it's not just about the environment, it is about justice, because those communities that are often hit the hardest are those communities that are least wealthy. So that is why it's important that their voices are heard in this place. And I'm actually not scared of citizens. I'm not scared of talking to people and having people inform us in the direction of travel. That's what we're here for as members of Parliament. The more people that talk to us, the more people that inform us of what they want to see us doing, the better. So the Olympic rower, the legend, that is Sir Steve Redgrave, he's calling on the government to tackle pollution for profit in the Thames. Now, some of our rowers in the Thames were sick after they competed, and he said this: "We won't sit quietly while this catastrophe continues." He says it's completely unacceptable and urgent action is needed to stop sewage discharges that is at dangerously high levels. E. coli and bacteria is 10 times higher than the Environmental Agency threshold for waters. And I think in France, their threshold is lower. So you can't really compare our levels to their levels. And at the moment, Madam Deputy Speaker, Thames Water is currently being taken to court by the Good Law Project because they're defending a £3 billion bailout, which is just staggering, really. And the other thing is this. Yes, the water companies are carrying too much debt, but that is how they manage their business, which needs to be called out, because this situation cannot continue. And I do think that my honourable friend's bill comes up with some of the solutions. I have the wonderful Brent Reservoir in my constituency, which is of special scientific interest. And what they do is they make sure that the water levels and the pollution of water levels are kept down to the extent that we can have some surviving wildlife and fish in our rivers. And they're finding it really, really hard. And they haven't really got enough money to keep going. They were recently given, and I thank the Mayor of London, they were given £55,000 funding for the Mayor of London's Grow Back Greener Fund, and they've managed to put in a sort of floating ecosystem to improve the water quality. But it gets harder and harder when Thames Water pumps sewage into our rivers. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, this cannot continue. Change has to happen, and it has to be accelerated.